They all laughed when he cried. My father chuckled, "He's just a kid. He'll get over it." And my mother, God help her, clinked her wine glass and added, "Drama runs in the bloodline." My 10-year-old son sat there, blinking through the sting in his eyes, his fists clenched beneath the tablecloth. No one reached for him. Not his grandparents. Not his uncles. Not even my golden sister who started it all with a cruel joke about his stutter. I stared at him, trying to hold his pain inside me like a dam holds a flood. But he beat me to it. He stood. "I'll never forget this," he said, voice shaking but loud enough to cut through every smile in that room. Silence. "My name is Jordan Pierce. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because sometimes the smallest voice can cause the loudest collapse." Have you ever watched your child get humiliated while your entire bloodline laughed like it was a sitcom? Because I did. Last night. And I didn't say a word. Not yet. We were all at the long oak table at my parents' estate. A massive dinner to celebrate family. My father had just closed a business deal. My sister, Eleanor, got promoted. And my son Eli? He got laughed at for mispronouncing congratulations. They laughed. They howled. My brother-in-law even filmed it on his phone, whispering comedy gold. Eli looked at me with those pleading eyes. Eyes that have only known kindness from me. Eyes that asked, "Why won't you stop them, Dad?" I didn't move. I didn't speak. Because revenge, real, deep, unforgettable revenge, requires patience. It requires silence before the storm. That night after dinner, I tucked Eli into bed in our guest room. His voice was hoarse. "I'm not coming to family stuff anymore," he whispered. "I know, buddy," I said, kissing his forehead. "You won't have to." I walked down the long hallway of that house I grew up in, a house where I was taught to keep quiet, to be polite, to swallow shame with wine and fake smiles. Not anymore. Because what my family didn't know was that I had been planning something for over a year. And they had just handed me the perfect reason to finally pull the trigger. The next morning, by the time the sun rose, my parents' legacy would begin to rot. From the inside out. Like fruit that looks perfect. Until you touch it and your fingers sink through the skin. Just wait. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the guest room window watching the moonlight fall across Eli's small face. He was finally asleep, one hand clutching the stuffed lion my late wife gave him, the only thing she left behind that still had her scent. He'd be safer soon. Away from these people who wore their cruelty like perfume. At 5 a.m. I walked into my father's office. Same mahogany desk since the 90s. Same locked drawer. But I knew the code. My mother's birthday. Of course. Inside, bank papers, power of attorney documents, and the updated will, the one I was supposed to co-sign months ago, giving them access to Eli's trust fund for family purposes. I never signed it. Instead, I made copies. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the app my parents forgot I built, Pierce Secure. They still used it to store private PDFs, family contracts, tax documents. I still had admin rights. And now I had everything I needed. Because when they humiliated my son, they didn't just cross a line. They lit a fuse under a foundation I already cracked. At 7 a.m. I made one call. "Jessica, pull the trigger on the private audit. Release the trustee files to the firm. And send the clip." She hesitated. "The video of your nephew mocking Eli?" "Yes," I said. "Send it to every partner. And the board." "You sure you want to nuke them, Jordan?" I looked out the window at my father sipping coffee by the pool in his robe, humming Sinatra. "They buried me for years," I whispered. "It's time they see what the view looks like from underneath." By 9 a.m. chaos had begun. My father's phone rang first. Then my sister's. Then the estate's landline started blowing up like it was 1998. See, what they didn't know was that while they laughed at my son for stuttering, the trust fund they thought they controlled, the inheritance they manipulated from my late wife's estate, it had already been moved into Eli's name, irrevocably, and their access to it? Terminated. By legal clause. One I inserted the day they first tried to control it. Then came the real storm. The audit revealed questionable activity. My father's company stock? Frozen. His luxury account? Flagged. My sister's bonus? Revoked. Turns out, when your firm gets a video of you mocking a child with a speech disorder, clients start disappearing. I stood in the kitchen as my mother stormed in, barefoot, red-faced. "What have you done?" I took a sip of coffee and smiled. "Just showing Eli what standing up really looks like." Her voice cracked. "You do this to your own family?" I leaned in. "You did it first." Then I walked out. Back to my son. Back to a future they no longer controlled. And in that moment, the house that raised me finally felt smaller than the man I became. The phone didn't stop ringing. I could hear it echo through the halls of the estate like a heartbeat in panic. Landlines. Mobiles. Notifications exploding. I made breakfast like nothing was happening. Eli liked his eggs soft, toast crisp, strawberries halved. He ate quietly, still wearing the oversized hoodie he slept in. His eyes were clearer this morning. But behind them I saw the wall going up, the one I built at his age brick by brick. I wouldn't let him finish it. "You okay, bud?" I asked. He nodded, chewing slowly. "You didn't yell at them." "I didn't need to," I said. "Sometimes silence is louder than screaming." He tilted his head, curious. "Did they get in trouble?" I smiled. "They're learning what happens when you hurt someone who stays quiet too long." By the time we stepped outside, the house felt like a crumbling kingdom. My father was on the phone in his office, barking orders at lawyers who were already 2 steps behind. My mother was crying in the solarium, clutching a glass of white wine and blaming social media trolls. Eleanor? She was curled up on a deck chair, scrolling, deleting posts, trying to clean her digital footprint. But the video was already viral. That's the thing about cruelty, it echoes longer than kindness, especially when it's caught on camera. At noon I took Eli for a drive. Not just to escape, but to begin. The nonprofit center stood tall downtown, tucked between glass towers and rusted alleys. Starlight Center for Kids with Communication Disorders. I funded it quietly after my wife passed. Never told my family. It wasn't for them. It was for Eli. And now, it was his. I unlocked the doors, turned on the lights, and handed him the key. "You own this now," I said gently. "Your mom and I built it for kids who feel like you did last night." He stared at the key. "But I'm just a kid." I knelt down. "Exactly. And someday another kid will walk in here, scared and alone, and your name will be on the door that opens for them." He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He just nodded, like something ancient in him understood. When we came back to the estate, the silence was different. No more phones. No more shouting. Just 3 people sitting in a room full of consequences they never thought would find them. My father didn't look up. My mother barely met my eyes. Eleanor started to say something, then stopped. Her voice had always been the sharpest. Now it trembled like a paper wall in a rainstorm. I said nothing. I just handed them an envelope. Inside, a printed statement, declaring my full separation from the family trust, relinquishing any claim to the estate, severing ties, and attached to it, a photo, me, Eli, and his mom, smiling, before everything. A note scribbled in ink beneath it. "He won't forget, and neither will I." Then I walked away. Because sometimes revenge isn't destruction. Sometimes it's simply leaving people to rot in the house they burn themselves. With all the windows closed. I didn't think they'd follow me. But guilt is a strange beast. It doesn't die quietly, it flails, claws, screams for absolution from the very people it wounded. 3 hours after I handed them the letter, my father showed up at my apartment. No chauffeur. No Rolex. Just him. Alone. Sweating through a golf polo. He buzzed 3 times. I didn't answer. He waited. Sat on the building steps like a stranger. Like a man outside the gates of a life he no longer owned. I watched from the window. Eli was in his room, headphones on, painting. I opened the door. He stood slowly. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside but said nothing. He walked in like he didn't recognize the place. Like the air was too real. Too honest. "This is where you live. For now." He looked around. No marble floors. No chandeliers. Just warmth. Toys in corners. Soft lighting. Walls filled with hand-drawn pictures and old memories taped with love, not pride. He sat down at the table. "I didn't mean for last night to go that far." "No," I said. "You just meant to laugh at a 10-year-old. He flinched. "I didn't laugh. Your mother did. Eleanor. You didn't stop them." I leaned forward. "You taught me that silence is agreement." His mouth opened, then closed. I watched him shrink. The man who used to command boardrooms, silence rooms with a glance, now fumbling for words like a child caught cheating. "I worked my whole life to protect this family. I made sacrifices. Put food on your table." I nodded. "You gave us meals. But you served them with shame." He looked away. "Why now?" he asked. "Why destroy everything over a joke?" I took out my phone. Pulled up the video. Eli red-faced. Eleanor cackling. The rest of them egging her on. And my father, smirking. I hit pause. "You see a joke," I said. I see my son being taught he's less. He was silent. You raised me to be strong, right? Tough. A man provides, protects. I leaned in. I am protecting. Just not you. His voice dropped. You've embarrassed me in front of everyone. I smiled. Now you know how Eli felt. He stood, eyes burning, jaw tight. I built an empire, Jordan. I walked to the door. Opened it. Then you should have built a heart to match it. He walked out, but not before turning back. I lost you, didn't I? No, I said softly. You gave me away a long time ago. You just never noticed. I closed the door behind him. Locked it. Eli walked out a moment later, rubbing his eyes. Was that Grandpa? I knelt. Not anymore. He nodded. And just like that, our family tree lost a few rotten branches. Sometimes, to grow, you have to prune what poisons you. Even if it looks like home. The story should have ended there. But the thing about people like my mother? They don't go down quietly. They perform their downfall like it's a play. Tears, guilt trips, and carefully curated messages sent to just the right people. 3 days later I got the first call. Hey man, I heard something crazy. Your mom said you're suing the family over money? Then a text from an old cousin. She said Eli's in therapy because of you. Lie after lie. Fabricated like silk but spun with venom. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I leaked something else. A single email. From my mother. Sent 6 months ago. Subject line. Jordan's kid's disorder. We should consider boarding school, maybe Europe. No need to keep him around once the will clears. I blurred nothing. I attached a copy of the will, her annotations in red. And I posted it anonymously. Along with the video. To a private forum for local business partners and community donors. By noon the fallout had begun. Her charity board suspended her. Her wine club removed her. She went viral, not as the elegant matriarch of the Pierce family, but as the woman who mocked her grandson's disability behind his back, while sipping Chardonnay. The next day she showed up outside Eli's school. She wore sunglasses, a scarf. Like shame had a dress code. I stepped out of the car before Eli saw her. You're not welcome here, I said. Her voice trembled. I didn't know the email would. Jordan, please, I'm still your mother. You were, I said. Before you decided to sacrifice your grandson for control. She reached out. What do you want from me? I looked her in the eyes, steady. Nothing. That's what you gave him that night. That's what I'm returning. Then I turned, walked Eli inside and never looked back. That evening I got a message from Eleanor. I know you hate me. But Mom's losing it. She hasn't eaten in days. She's scared of going outside. I stared at the screen. Then I typed. Good. Maybe she'll understand what hiding feels like. Block. That weekend Eli and I painted the living room walls sky blue. He wanted stars too. I let him. He painted a big yellow one in the middle and wrote me inside it. I asked why. Because you said I shine, he said. Even when they tried to cover me. And I swear I had to turn away to breathe. Because in that moment I realized, this revenge? It wasn't just punishment. It was protection. It was proof. That even when the world tries to silence you, you can still teach your child how to roar. On Monday the letter arrived. Thick envelope. Gold crest. That same old Pierce family stationery used for weddings, fundraisers, and now, apparently, apologies. Inside was a card. Family matters are best handled with grace. We hope you'll reconsider before this becomes irreversible. No signature. Just a check. $500,000. A bribe. A white flag made of blood money. I laughed. Because this was their language. Silence was bought. Guilt was bartered. And love, well, that came with conditions and zeros. I took a photo of the check. Then I burned it in the sink. Eli stood beside me watching the flames curl around their offer. You're not taking it? He asked. No, I said. Because they still think we can be bought. His eyes flickered with something sharp. Proud. Later that day we went to the Starlight Center. It was quiet. The staff was in training, prepping for the soft launch. I handed Eli a small box. Inside was a silver nameplate, the Eli Room. A space for kids like him. For art. For expression. For power. He held it in his lap like it was made of gold. This is really mine? It always was, I said. They just couldn't see it. That night the local paper ran a story. Founder donates center to son after family dispute goes public. He deserves a world that listens. The article made the rounds. Parents sent messages. Other kids reached out. Teachers offered support. A wave of something new began. Respect. Meanwhile, back at the estate, the Pierce name had become poison. My father's firm was hit with a petition. Former partners stepping away. My mother's face, once painted across glossy magazines and event invites, had vanished, replaced with memes and outrage threats. But the worst came quietly. A letter from their lawyer. Mr. Jordan Pierce. Effective immediately, you are removed from the family estate's board and legal affairs. Please return any personal effects obtained through family assets. I stared at the paper for a long time, then wrote back, done. But I'm keeping my name. And he's keeping his. And I signed it not with best regards, not sincerely, just a father. Because that's who I became when they stopped pretending to be a family. Not their puppet. Not their heir. A father. To the boy they tried to break. And in the silence that followed, I swear I heard the house creak, like even the walls were ashamed. The voicemail came at 2:14 a.m. I let it ring. Then another. And another. 14 missed calls by sunrise. Eleanor's voice, ragged, finally cracked through the speaker. They froze Mom's accounts. The foundation's under investigation. Dad had a panic attack. He's in the hospital. Are you happy now? Are you proud of what you've done? I stood in the doorway of Eli's room, watching him sleep, his chest rising slow and peaceful. Proud? No. But I was done apologizing for protecting my son from the wolves dressed in pearls and polished shoes. Later that morning, I visited the hospital. Not for them. For closure. My father was in a private room, wires in his chest, monitors beeping soft. Eleanor stood when she saw me. You're here, she whispered, eyes puffy, mascara smudged. Not for you. My father blinked. Wait, quiet. The fighter in him silenced by a reality he never prepared for. One where power couldn't be inherited, only earned, and he never earned mine. I came, I said, because Eli deserves to know I looked him in the eye when you finally fell. My father tried to speak, but no words came. Just that look, half shame, half disbelief, that the boy he raised to be silent had become the man who burned down the palace. Eleanor stepped forward. We're still your family. I turned. No. You were my blood. That's different. I walked out. On the drive home, Eli texted me. Can we go to the center after school? I want to finish the mural. I replied, of course. I'll bring your paints. We did. That afternoon, sun warm against the windows, Eli painted the final strokes. It was a big wall, half the room. In it he'd drawn a tree. But the trunk was cracked, hollow at the base. And from it, one single branch grew outward, far and bright, with a swing hanging gently from it. I stared at it. You made this? I asked. He nodded. The tree is them, he said. But the swing? That's me. You built that swing. And for the first time in years I cried. Not from pain. From release. Because revenge isn't just about destruction. It's about building something stronger in its place. The kind of justice that lasts longer than anger. The kind of love that survives the fire. We held the grand opening of the Starlight Center on a Sunday. Eli wore a navy blazer, his hair slightly messed up the way he liked it. He stood beside me, clutching my hand tighter than usual. Dozens of families came. Children with bright eyes, quiet voices, shy steps. But the moment they saw the colors, the murals, the soft lighting, they smiled. Just like he had. One by one they stepped inside. And something in the air shifted. Not pity. Not charity. But dignity. Reporters were there too. They asked the usual questions. Why now? Why this? Is this about your family? I looked at Eli. Then said, this is about a boy who was told he'd get over it. But instead he grew through it. Applause rippled through the room. My phone buzzed mid-speech. A message from my father's lawyer. The Pierce estate is being liquidated. Assets seized. Ongoing investigations confirmed. One line at the bottom. They want to see Eli. One last time. I put the phone down. They had a lifetime to see him. And they chose mockery. Money. Ego. Now they could choose silence. After the event, Eli ran through the hallways, showing other kids the Eli room. He handed out markers, stickers, even hugs. One little girl whispered, I talk funny too. He grinned. That's cool. You should teach me. Outside, the sky turned amber. I stood beneath the mural he painted. That broken tree. That single swing. He came up beside me, eyes fixed on it. Do you think they miss us? He asked. Maybe, I said. But missing us isn't the same as changing. He nodded slowly, thoughtfully. The kind of wisdom no child should need, but he carried it with grace. Then he reached into his backpack and handed me something. A folded drawing. It was us, sitting on the swing together. In the corner he wrote, "We didn't fall. We flew." I knelt, held him tight and whispered, "You saved me too, you know?" He smiled into my chest. "I know." That night back home we sat on the balcony and watched the stars. And for the first time in a long time I didn't feel angry, or bitter, or vengeful. Just full of love, of freedom, of the kind of peace no inheritance could ever buy. Because in the end this wasn't just revenge. This was rebirth.